Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee.
Thank you.
Next, we'll hear Senate Bill 1. The sponsor would please come to the table if you have any guests with you as well. Please introduce yourself for the record, and then we will take action on the sub.
Good morning, Madam Chair. My name is John Schickel. I serve in the Senate. Thank you for hearing Senate Bill 1. Senate Bill 1 has been about 7 years in the making. It's been heard in the interim probably 4 or 5 times. There are 2 basic things to Senate Bill 1, and then I'll let others explain the committee sub. What Senate Bill 1 does, Madam Chair and members of the committee, it empowers our school boards through our superintendents and lets those people who are elected by the entire public make the decision on principal selection and curriculum. That is the basis of the bill.
I'm Ed Massey, District 66 representative from Boone County. I'm also carrying Senate Bill 1 on the floor, and I also am responsible for the committee sub, which has 3 major components. The first component is that in Jefferson County, some things have been going very well on changes that have been made in prior legislation about how they select their principals, how they run their day-to-day operations, how they deal with their curriculum, et cetera. So this sub incorporates that language into this bill to keep them in progress. If something's not broke, you don't need to fix it. And so that's the idea of that portion of the committee sub. And I believe that begins on page 31 and continues through page 34. The second part of this bill, you've kind of just already heard. Senate Bill 138 and the language therein has been rolled into this sub as part of Senate Bill 1. And so that language is in here. We've just had the discussion on that. So without belaboring that issue any further, I'll go to the last provision. And that piece actually begins on page 34 and goes through, I believe, page 36 or 7. And then the last provision basically is an addition that deals with some issues that arose during the COVID-19 scenario. That's under Section 6, and it defines the days that can be utilized and how the pay should be structured based on some inconsistencies that occurred for people that were absent versus people that were quarantined, et cetera. And so that language was put in there as an ability to clarify that particular piece, and that's in Section 6 on page 38 and 39.
Representative Bojanowski. Okay, thank you. Let's take it. Okay, go ahead.
So just to clarify on the sub, it does have a lot of discussion about what the JCPS board can and can't do. Could you explain why we are taking away local control of Jefferson County Board of Education to meet more than once every 2 months or so?
As regards to the particular nuances regarding that language, I cannot speak to that. What I can tell you, Representative, is that this was brought to me by folks from Jefferson County that said the process we have in place is working effectively, and therefore we would like to see that continue and not alter that through this new language that's part of Senate Bill 1. In other words, before Senate Bill 1, as Senator Schickel indicated, in fact, I've testified on this bill before I was a legislator. And so before Senate Bill 1 has come to the table here today for adoption or non-adoption, the fact of the matter is Jefferson County had taken the matter into their own hands, if you will, and had done something that they believe is working effectively for them. And so they want to keep that in place, and that is why it's put forth in this sub.
Thank you.
Representative Wilner.
Thank you. And my question is similar. I'm curious who from Jefferson County, was it the Jefferson County School Board that brought this specifically? They're saying that they want less authority over their own, what they've been elected to do. And I see Eric Kennedy at the table, and I would love to hear KSBA's perspective on this.
Yes, ma'am. I'm Eric Kennedy, the Director of Advocacy for the Kentucky School Boards Association, and thank you. Of course, we know you are a former member of that Jefferson County School Board. KSBA that is not a part of the bill that we really have had a lot of involvement with, to be honest. We support and have for many years support most of what you see in Senate Bill 1 as it passed the Senate. So I can't speak in detail to the background on that piece of the committee sub that you see. However, I will say very generally, KSBA for many years has advocated that we need to protect local decision-making with the local elected school board for the things that are in their statutory role as part of our common school system governance. And above all, when there are, as we've seen throughout the pandemic, especially at a heightened level, whenever there are community concerns about things that they like or do not like in a local district, with our districts being so different across the state, we always urge people to reach out and be involved with their board and to run for school board. Right now on our website, we have updated, as we have for at least 30 years, a guide for all of the information for people in the community to run for their school board, and we encourage everyone to look at that. This is an election year. Roughly half of every board and half of all board seats in Kentucky are up this November. So that is, to the extent KSBA has a statement on the background of that piece, that's it.
Quick follow-up with Rep. Massey. So where in Jefferson County, if it didn't come from KSBA, I doubt it came from the school board, where in Jefferson County did this originate?
Well, I actually have talked with several people. In fact, I believe there's also been a floor amendment filed that would also address this particular piece. I believe that was going to be carried by Representative Nemes. But there have been several people affiliated with Jefferson County that have come and spoke to me on this regards. And basically, I'm not trying to portray that I know the inner workings of Jefferson County. I served on a board for 22 years, but it was substantially smaller than Jefferson County. We had about 23,000 compared to their, high enrollment. And so it was brought as an issue that initially there was one committee sub, and then as the carrier of the committee sub and as the person that will carry Senate Bill 1 on the floor, I was asked that it was brought to the chair, it was brought to me, and said it was being rolled into this one committee sub. That's why you see a large committee sub that incorporates not only the Jefferson County piece, but 138 and the piece about the COVID-19. So it was several members. It's not that I'm not at liberty to tell. Some of them were, I think, officials that were everything from lobbyists to members to people in the community. So I will be glad to share those names with you privately. I don't know that I want to try to forget somebody doing it here publicly.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's take action on the sub since we. Representative Scott, please be brief.
I will always, Chairwoman, thank you. My only question is, why is Senate Bill 138 rolled into this bill?
Again, as the person that's carrying the sub, I was told that 138 was going to be rolled into that. I'm not even sure necessarily the origin of that. It was heard already today. It's heard here. I presume, and again, that's a dangerous place to be, and I understand that if for any reason Senate Bill 1 didn't pass, they still wanted the pieces of 138. But if Senate Bill 1 does pass, I'm not sure there's a need to call 138 on the floor. And that was the strategy that was brought and put into this particular sub.
Thank you, Chairwoman.
Thank you. Let's take action on the sub. We already have the motion and the second, please. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Committee sub is adopted. Proceed. Do you have anything else to add?
Not unless there's answers to questions. With regards to the sub, now I will say that I have worked with Senator Schickel now for, like I said, the last 5 or 6 years. Myself and my former superintendent, Dr. Randy Poe, have worked on this largely because there's been a lot of conflicts. I think the intention of site-based councils was very well intended. This is not to take out parental involvement. That is not the goal at all. In fact, if you know the makeup of the councils, to some degree, the parental involvement's been at a disadvantage just based on the the numbers make up a site-based council. But there's been conflicts, and one of the big conflicts has come with selection of principals, and the other conflict has been curriculum, because if you have several schools that are feeding a middle school, and then maybe 2 or 3 middle schools feeding a high school, and you have curriculums that are all over the board, it's really hard to get those corralled so that you can provide a good delivery package to the students. And what happens is a lot of teachers spend their time trying to bring that alignment into place and losing valuable instruction time. Finally, there's been some conflicts with regards to application of the principals. I was party to the board that was the first board sued for usurping the authority of site-based councils. It was Boucher versus the Boone County Board of Education. And so that's been a hands-off approach for a long time. But seeing those conflicts and trying to work out a better solution, we believe that this is the best way to go, and that's why it's been vetted for so many years.
One additional point, Madam Chair, is that I receive a lot of complaints, and I know other people do, is parents need to have a say, but, we hear from grandparents, we hear from aunts and uncles, we hear from a lot of folks, and this bill includes everyone in that voice.
Thank you. We do have some to speak against the bill. If we could have Lauren Mitchell come to the table and introduce yourself for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
There we go. My name is Lauren Mitchell. I live in Woodford County. My husband and I farm there, and we have 2 sons in the public schools there. Thank you for having me and allowing me to speak today. I'd like to start by reading a quote from the Kentucky Family and School Partnership Guide put together by the Pritchard Committee. The best indicator of student success is the extent to which families encourage learning at home and involve themselves in their child's education. I firmly believe this. I act this out every day. One vital way for families to stay involved and have a seat at the table in Kentucky public schools is through school-based decision-making councils, SBDM. I have served on councils for 10 years now. Through SBDM, parents have the opportunity to make decisions for individual schools at the local level. Who knows best what a school needs than the principal, teachers, and parents of that particular school? Senate Bill 1 does diminish parent voice. You are talking about giving the decision-making to 6 people versus the people that are in each school. My council has 8 on it. There are several schools in our district, all of which have its own council that are all making local decisions for each of those schools. They know best for what those kids need. The 6 people that are responsible for the school board, I'm not saying they're not qualified to make those decisions, but they're not in the schools every day. Senate Bill 1 diminishes family engagement. I urge you, please vote no for this bill. Keep SBDM councils the way they are. Keep parent voice. Keep school decisions in the hands of those who know the school best, the parents, the teachers, the principals, and the students of those schools. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Eddie Campbell, KEA. Please introduce yourself for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Eddie Campbell. I'm a middle and high school music teacher from Knox County, currently serving as president of the Kentucky Education Association. I can't comment on the committee sub since it was just adopted and it's not been available for the public to read or comment on. I will say that site-based decision-making councils were a cornerstone of the Kentucky Education Reform Act over 30 years ago. And the purpose is reflected in its name. And the crafters of CARA believe that some decisions are best made by local constituents, parents, and educators to ensure that the needs of the students are met. For more than 30 years, our SBDM councils have been an essential driver in Kentucky students' success, opportunity, and growth. According to KDE, there are 7,625 Kentucky citizens that are serving on these councils. That group is made up of parents who are elected by their peers, teachers who are elected by their colleagues, and a principal who is selected on the recommendation of the council and in collaboration with the superintendent who has a vote on those councils. SBDM members know and understand the unique student populations in their schools that they represent. They understand the issues and challenges that the students face as a group and are best qualified to adopt policies to facilitate academic success, neutralizing the parent and educator elected representatives and centralizing that authority of principal selection and curriculum decisions in the superintendent is a step backwards in Kentucky education. I do urge you to vote no on this bill, and I'm just trying to keep my comments brief, and thank you for allowing us to speak today.
Thank you. I think that Justice League spoke on their first bill and left. With that, and seeing no further questions, we have a motion on the bill by Representative McCoy, a second by... Ladies, I'm going to ask that you get with the sponsor after, please. we're 9:30 now, and you had the opportunity to already ask. I apologize, but I am really short on time. We need a second. Second by Representative Baker. Mariah, please call the roll.
Representative Baker?
Yes.
Representative Banta?
Yes.
Representative Bojanowski?
I'd like to explain my no vote, please.
Proceed.
Just as a clarification, the question I asked was related to the principal selection in JCPS in the sub. But there's another section of this bill that is 2 and a bit pages that is explicitly directing JCPS's Board of Education on things like how many times they can meet. So I just wanted to clarify that I support the amendment that was added in for principal selection for JCPS, but there's no clarification as to why we have this other section. Thank you.
Representative Decker?
Yes.
Representative Donahue?
Madam Chair, may I explain my vote?
Yes.
A couple quick comments. You know, I noticed on the committee sub it was put. I found it very interesting that we asked who was in behind this sub, and no one didn't feel comfortable or at liberty to name those names. And I've always supported my local councils and local committees. You know, and always will. And it's interesting. Sometimes I may add quickly is that people that like superintendents that came up through the system and got their jobs coming through site-based councils and stuff, or want to change that. I find that kind of interesting. So I'm a no vote today. Thank you.
Representative Dossett?
Yes.
Representative Hart?
Yes.
Representative Lewis?
Briefly explain my vote.
Briefly.
Thank you. You know, it's a tough bill for me, and I'm a superintendent, former school superintendent, 13 years. But, you know, I always remember where these complaints ended up, and they were always with me. And sometimes my hands were tied where I couldn't do what I thought needed to be done. But, you know, this doesn't do away with site-based councils. The districts that use these well, I think, will continue to do so. I think this is just a way that if there is an issue that the superintendent could step in and maybe correct it and move forward. But I'm a yes vote. Thank you.
Representative Massey?
Yes, briefly explain my vote, very briefly.
Proceed.
Just understand that, again, to echo the comments of Representative Lewis, we want parent involvement. Schools that are successful, my experience has been in 30 years of education, parent involvement makes the difference between a successful school and an unsuccessful school. With regards to a lot of the committee sub things, those things obviously happen, and obviously late in session, people are trying to get their pieces heard, and so we'll certainly continue to hear from the parties involved here. I'll be glad to talk with people that have had questions following the meeting. Thank you. My vote is a yes.
Representative McCool?
No.
Representative McCoy?
Yes.
Representative Miller? No. Representative Gibbons-Prunty?
Yes.
Representative Rayburn?
Yes.
Representative Riley?
May I explain my vote briefly?
Yeah. Briefly.
I don't think it's fair to Senator Schickel or Senator Wise for these two bills to be rolled together. These two bills are too important to the state to be voted on together. I think they need to be voted on separately. And for that reason, I'm going to pass right now.
Representative Scott?
No.
Representative Timoney?
Briefly explain my vote.
Briefly.
My concerns rest with the consultation aspect. I would like to see that piece of consultation with the schools to be enumerated. I would like to see, you know, parents and teachers on a committee. I agree with this bill with the piece about the district curriculum decisions. Like Representative Massey had said, both academic and student support curriculums. I think that there is an argument. Whenever I talk about education, I always think about the students that are most challenged, and those are the ones who are most transient. And I worked with lots of students who would come from one school to another. The disconnect academically from curriculum to curriculum, we need to remedy that.
as well as the student support curriculums from school to school are different. We need to universalize that. So I was 100% support behind that, but with the addition of 138, I have to be a no. Thank you.
Representative Tipton?
Yes.
Representative Weber?
Yes.
Representative Wilner?
Yes, briefly explain. I'm sorry, that's a no. Briefly explain.
Okay.
I received a message from Rep. Nemes who asked me to please clarify for the committee that he did not file an amendment having to do with the board piece of it, that it has to do with preserving what JCPS is already doing, and he asked that I clarify that, and I think that's really symptomatic of how rushed this process has been. We're all scrambling to absorb what's in the sub. Even Rep. Massey, who I have great respect for, is scrambling to know what's in the sub and where it came from. So even if I were not already opposed to the content of this bill, which I am, the process alone would make it a no for me.
Chair Huff?
Yes. This bill has a title amendment. We need a motion on the. Second. We have a motion on the title amendment by Representative Tipton, a second by Representative McCoy. All in favor? All opposed?
No.
Title amendment is adopted. Senate Bill 1 passes with expression of the opinion that the same should pass with the committee substitute and the amendment attached thereto. Thank you. Representative McCoy is ready. If you would please introduce yourself for the record and please proceed.
Good morning. I'm Chad McCoy, State Representative, 50th District.